When I turned 19, I genuinely believed the worst thing I'd ever have to deal with was juggling college assignments with my part-time job at the hardware store. I had no idea that within a single afternoon, every piece of stability I had would be ripped out from under me, not because of something I did, but because of one person, my stepbrother, Tyler. You know the type. Charming when he wants something, quick to play victim when he's caught, and always treated like fragile royalty by my dad simply because he was the younger one and came from my stepmom's side. Dad always claimed he treated us equally, but anyone with eyes could see Tyler got away with everything while I got blamed for things I didn't even know about. So when I walked through the front door on a rainy Thursday evening, exhausted from my shift and smelling like lumber and dust, the last thing I expected was to find our entire living room filled with tension thick enough to choke on. Dad was standing in the center of the room with his arms crossed. My stepmom sat on the couch with swollen eyes like she'd been crying for hours. And Tyler, of course, was sitting dramatically on the edge of the recliner, head in his hands like he was starring in some tragic movie. The moment I entered, all three heads snapped toward me as if I'd been caught walking into a crime scene. Dad's voice boomed before I could even drop my keys into the bowl. "Where is it?" No greeting. No explanation. Just those 3 words, sharp enough to slice the air open. I blinked. "Where's what?" Dad stepped forward, eyes full of a fury I had never seen aimed at me before. "Don't play stupid, Adam. Where is Tyler's money?" For a second, I thought he was joking. Then I saw Tyler lift his head, tears streaming down his cheeks, shaking like he had just survived a hurricane. He wouldn't look at me directly. He only whispered, "I know you took it." My stomach dropped to my shoes. "Took what?" "Tyler, what the hell are you talking about?" Stepmom suddenly sobbed. "His savings, Adam. His college savings. All of it. Gone. Every penny." I felt like the floor tilted as if the entire house tilted with it. Tyler kept sniffling, wiping fake tears, acting like his life had ended. Dad turned toward me again. "He says you used his computer while he was at school. He says you were the only one home the day the money disappeared." "Dad, I didn't take anything." "Stop." He didn't even let me finish. Tyler showed me the transfer history. Someone took the entire account balance out through an online transfer to a prepaid card. And according to him, you're the only one who would know how to do something like that. My breath caught. Tyler knew damn well I was the only one in the house who understood anything about online banking because I had helped him set up his account in the first place. But accusing me? Stealing his savings? It didn't even sound real. "Dad, I didn't touch his stupid money. Why would I do that?" Tyler finally stood up, pointing a shaky finger at me like a prosecutor. "Because you hate me, Adam. You've always hated me. You think you're better than me. You think I'm spoiled. Maybe you did it to teach me a lesson." I stared at him, stunned. I hated him? No. I resented him sometimes, sure. But steal from him? Destroy his future? Never. Dad's jaw tightened. Tyler's worked hard for that money. He's been saving it for years. Why would he lie? Why would he make something like this up? I could have given 1,000 reasons why Tyler would lie. Attention, drama, deflection, manipulation. But none of them mattered because Dad had already chosen a side. Not mine. I didn't take anything, I repeated, louder this time, though my voice cracked. Check my room. Check my phone. Check everything. I don't have anything of his. But Dad was shaking his head like he had already made his decision hours ago. Before I ever walked through the front door. Before I even knew there was a problem. "Adam," he said, lowering his voice in that disappointed tone parents use when they want to make you feel like a failure. "We raised you better than this." My throat burned. "Dad, please, get out." Those 2 words shattered me. Stepmom gasped softly, like she didn't expect things to go that far, but she didn't try to stop him. Tyler looked down, still playing broken victim. My heart pounded so loudly I could hear it in my ears. "Dad, you're kicking me out? Over something I didn't do. You stole from your own family," he said coldly. "Until you return the money and apologize, I don't want you under this roof." I laughed, just one short, shocked burst, because what else was I supposed to do? How can I return money I never took? Dad turned away, refusing to look at me, refusing to hear me, refusing to even consider that maybe, just maybe, the golden child he adored was lying.
Get out, Adam. Now.
Before I call the police. That last part hit me like a truck. Police? Over a lie? Over something he didn't even investigate? That's when it clicked. Tyler planned this. He knew Dad wouldn't question him. He knew I'd be the first suspect because I was the oldest. He knew how to weaponize Dad's trust against me.
So he did.
I grabbed my backpack, stuffed a few things into it with shaky hands, and tried one last time to look Dad in the eyes. You're making a mistake, I whispered. A huge one. Dad didn't blink, didn't move, didn't soften. He acted like I was a stranger trespassing in his home. I opened the front door, rain blowing against my face, and as I stepped onto the porch, I heard Tyler's voice behind me, low, smug, meant only for me. Should have been nicer to me. My hands curled into fists, but I didn't turn back. If I did, I knew I'd say something I couldn't take back. So I walked into the storm, the door slamming behind me like the final nail in the coffin. By the time I reached the sidewalk, I already knew my life had changed. But what I didn't know, not yet anyway, was that Tyler hadn't just accused me. He had set me up. And the proof of that wouldn't come until much, much later, when the consequences of his lie hit harder than any storm ever could. I didn't have a plan when I walked out into that storm. My brain was too numb, my heart too crushed to even process what had just happened. One minute I had a home. The next, I was standing on the sidewalk in the pouring rain with nothing but a backpack and a phone at 15% battery. I walked aimlessly for half an hour, letting the cold rain numb the shaking in my hands. I kept expecting my dad to call and say he'd made a mistake, that he'd calmed down, that he realized he'd judged too fast. But my phone stayed silent except for a single notification, a group chat I shared with 3 of my closest friends lighting up with messages from Tyler. Not even a second later, the first ping came through. Tyler, just letting you all know, Adam stole all my college savings. We're filing a police report.
Ping.
Emma, wait, what?
Ping.
Drew, dude, seriously?
Ping.
Tyler, yeah, he's gone now. Dad kicked him out. My throat tightened so painfully, I thought I was going to throw up. I typed furiously. Me? I didn't steal anything. He's lying. But before anyone could respond, Drew left the group chat. Then Emma. Then Jay.
Just gone. Like that.
Years of friendships erased because Tyler typed a single lie into a chat group. No one even asked me what happened. No one even tried to hear my side. It was like I'd been erased from their lives within seconds. I stood under the awning of a closed store, trying to catch my breath, feeling the panic clawing at my chest. I called Drew. Straight to voicemail. Emma. Straight to voicemail.
Jay.
Straight to voicemail. All 3 of them had blocked me. My dad hadn't just kicked me out. My entire world had agreed with his decision without hesitation. I had no home, no family support, no friends, and barely any money. For the first time in my life, I understood what it felt like to be completely alone. I ended up walking to the one place I thought might give me even a small chance at shelter, my coworker's apartment. Her name was Rachel. She was older, 27, and the kind of calm, grounded person who didn't get pulled into drama. I didn't know her well, but she was the only person I could think of who might actually listen. Her building was a 20-minute walk from the store, but the storm made it feel like an hour. When I finally reached her door and knocked, I looked like a drowned rat. She opened the door in sweatpants and looked at me like she was seeing a ghost. Adam, what the hell happened to you? I swallowed hard. Can I just come in for a minute? She didn't even hesitate. Yeah, of course. The warmth of her apartment hit me so hard I almost burst into tears right there. She handed me a towel, a glass of water, and waited until I sat down before asking again, what happened? The words spilled out of me. Everything from the second I walked into the house to the moment my friends blocked me. Rachel didn't interrupt. She didn't judge. She didn't rush me. She just listened, her eyebrows furrowing deeper and deeper the more she heard. When I finished, She sat back slowly. That's insane. You really didn't take the money? Rachel, I swear on my life. I didn't touch a cent. She nodded. Okay. Then you didn't. I blinked. Just like that? She shrugged. You don't strike me as the type. And honestly, Tyler always felt off to me. That was the first moment all day when I felt a tiny flicker of relief. Not hope, just relief that at least one person didn't see me as a criminal. But the relief didn't last long because my phone buzzed again. Another message. This time from a number I didn't recognize. When I opened it, my blood ran cold. Unknown. Return the money before we press charges. Attached was a blurry picture of me walking out of the house earlier that day with my backpack. The way the picture was framed, it looked like I was sneaking out after doing something wrong. But what chilled me wasn't the picture. It was the implication. Whoever sent it wanted me scared, wanted me pressured, wanted me cornered. And the unknown number? It was Tyler's burner phone. He had one. He used it before. I knew it. He was trying to intimidate me on different channels, so it didn't look like he was behind it. Rachel saw the look on my face and asked quietly, "What is it?" I handed her the phone. She read the message and muttered, "Jesus." She set the phone down and leaned forward. Adam, this feels planned. I knew it did, but hearing someone else say it made the truth sink deeper into my bones. Why would he do this? I whispered, "Why go this far?" Rachel stayed quiet for a moment. Sometimes people create chaos, so no one looks closely at them. That sentence dug into my mind like a hook. It was the first time I truly considered that Tyler didn't just lie impulsively. He had a reason. A motive. Something he didn't want anyone to see. And what better way to redirect attention than to point fingers at me, the easy target? Before we could talk more, my phone buzzed again. Another unknown number. This time a voicemail. I pressed play. My dad's voice exploded through the speaker. "Adam, the police will be here in the morning. If you know what's good for you, return the money now and stop making this worse." My chest tightened so bad I gasped. Rachel grabbed my shoulder.
Hey, breathe.
You didn't do anything. You don't owe them anything. But logic didn't matter. Fear was louder. If the police got involved, I knew my dad would twist the story to fit whatever Tyler wanted. Tyler would cry. Stepmom would swear she saw me acting suspicious. And Dad, he'd back them even if deep down he wasn't sure anymore. It hit me like a punch. This wasn't going away on its own. They wouldn't stop until someone broke. And Tyler knew I didn't have the support system to defend myself. That was the point. He didn't just want me out. He wanted me powerless. Rachel must have read the panic on my face, because she stood up suddenly. "Get up. We're doing something." "What?" "We're finding proof you didn't do this." I shook my head.
How?
"The money's gone. Tyler already made sure everything points to me." Rachel grabbed her keys. "Adam, if he framed you, he didn't do it cleanly. People like him never do." I didn't know what she meant yet. I didn't know where we were going. But I followed her out of the apartment because I had no other choice and because the alternative, sitting and waiting for the police, felt like walking willingly into a trap. We got into her car, and as the rain hammered against the windshield, Rachel turned to me and said, "I know someone who can help us. Someone who can see past fake stories and digital fingerprints."
Who?
I asked. She put the car into drive. "My brother. He's an IT forensic tech." My heart stuttered. And just like that, for the first time since the nightmare started, I felt something that had been missing all day. A chance. Rachel drove through the storm like she was on a mission, windshield wipers slamming back and forth while the streetlights blurred into streaks of yellow against the rain. I sat there clutching my backpack like it was the last thing I owned, which, in a way, it was. My mind kept replaying Dad's voicemail on a loop, the threat of police hanging over me like a guillotine, Tyler's smug whisper echoing in my head. Every instinct screamed that I was walking into a deeper nightmare, but Rachel's confidence was the only thing keeping me from falling apart. When we finally pulled up to a small brick building on the other side of town, the rain had slowed to a drizzle. The building looked abandoned at first, but then I saw a dim light flickering inside and a single car parked out front. Rachel shut the engine off and turned to me. Listen, she said quietly. My brother, Mark, he's blunt. Like very blunt. He doesn't sugarcoat anything. But if your stepbrother messed with anything digital, Mark will find the crack. That sentence steadied something inside me. We got out, hurried through the wet pavement, and Rachel knocked 3 times on the metal door. A moment later, it swung open to reveal a tall, sharp-featured guy with dark circles under his eyes and a coffee mug in one hand. It's midnight, he grumbled. You better be dying or wanted by the FBI. Rachel pointed at me. Close enough. Mark looked at me, raised one eyebrow, then held the door open without another word. Inside, the room looked like a weird mix of a tech lab and a hoarder's basement. Monitors stacked on each other, wires everywhere, half-eaten pizza boxes, 3 different servers humming in the corner. It smelled like cold coffee and overheating electronics. Mark sat down in front of one of the screens, cracked his knuckles, and said, Explain. I told him everything. Dad's accusation, the missing money, Tyler's lie, the threatening texts, the staged picture. I expected him to laugh or tell me there was nothing he could do, but instead, he interrupted only once. Tyler's account, bank or credit union? I told him. He nodded like he had just mentally opened a new folder in his brain. When I finished, he leaned back in his chair and let out a slow, low whistle. Your stepbrother is either an idiot or a genius, he said. And based on what you've told me, I'm leaning toward idiot. I blinked. What does that mean? Mark gestured for my phone. Unlock it. I handed it over. He connected it to his computer with a cable so frayed I was surprised it still worked. The moment data began transferring, lines of code flooded his screen like some hacker movie montage. Tyler sent you threats from 2 unknown numbers, Mark said, scrolling rapidly. That means he didn't spoof anything. Spoofers hide. Amateurs switch SIM cards. He clicked something, zoomed in on a data line. Your phone saved metadata from the messages. I can track which carrier the numbers belong to. My heart began pounding with the first real pulse of hope. Rachel sat on the arm of his chair, tapping her foot impatiently. Mark typed for what felt like forever, then finally muttered, and got it. He turned the monitor slightly toward us. 2 phone numbers were displayed on the screen, alongside carrier information, including the registered device type. Burner phones, Rachel said. Yep, Mark replied. Cheap ones. But here's the thing.
He smirked.
Both SIM cards were activated using the same IP address. I frowned. What does that mean? Mark turned to me fully, the smirk growing. It means both burner phones were activated from the same house. Your house. My breath caught. Tyler. Bingo. For a moment, everything inside me flipped. Anger, relief, disbelief, all crashing at once. I wasn't crazy. I wasn't paranoid. Tyler really had orchestrated the entire thing. But Mark wasn't done. He typed again, faster this time, eyes darting through data like a surgeon. Let's check the transfer history from Tyler's bank account, he said. I shook my head. We don't have access. Mark gave a dark laugh. Everyone has access if they're careless enough. Rachel snorted. Translation. Tyler's stupid. Mark opened a program I'd never seen before, cracked his knuckles dramatically, and went to work. Within minutes, he pulled up the routing logs. And here's where it gets hilarious, he said. Tyler's online banking login came from 2 devices on the day the money disappeared. One is his laptop. He clicked. The other is a second device on your home's Wi-Fi with a different MAC address. Rachel leaned closer. Whose device? Mark enlarged the MAC. A prepaid tablet. My stomach dropped. He bought a burner tablet too? Probably at the same store he got the phones, Mark said. But here's the nail in the coffin. He tapped the screen. See this? A line appeared showing the IP logs of the device used to transfer Tyler's money onto a prepaid card. The transfer was made at 3:16 p.m., Mark said. Tyler claimed you were home alone, right? Yeah, I said slowly. He said he was at school, and I was the only one home. Mark clicked again, zooming into the metadata. Except the IP location says this transfer happened from a Starbucks 2 miles from your house. My jaw dropped. Tyler doesn't even drink coffee, Rachel muttered. He does if the free Wi-Fi lets him commit financial fraud, Mark said. But the part that made my blood boil was the timestamp. At 3:16 p.m., I was clocked in at work. I was at the hardware store then, I whispered. There's cameras, a schedule, everything. Mark nodded. Congratulations. You now have a digital alibi. For a moment, I couldn't speak. The pressure in my chest finally loosened, my lungs filled, and I felt something I hadn't felt in hours, validation. But it didn't stop there. Mark dug deeper, tracing the prepaid card Tyler used. He bought the card earlier that day at a convenience store. Mark opened another window, scanning for store data. If I can match your stepbrother's bank card with any purchase record from the store, we've got him. Another minute passed, then another, and suddenly Mark froze. Oh my God, he said with a grin. You're going to love this. He turned the screen fully. There it was, a transaction record showing Tyler's debit card being used at a corner store 4 hours before he accused me. The item purchased? Prepaid card, $6.95. I laughed, an actual, breathless, disbelieving laugh, because the stupidity was unbelievable. Tyler had left a perfect breadcrumb trail. We need this, Rachel said immediately. Every screenshot, every log, everything. Already on it, Mark replied, hitting save. I'll format a clean evidence packet that even a half-blind cop can understand. As he worked, I sat there absorbing everything, shaking with relief and anger and exhaustion. Tyler hadn't just lied. He'd built a whole fake crime, ruined my reputation, turned my dad against me, manipulated my friends, and tried to weaponize the police against me, all while leaving digital fingerprints everywhere. And now, we had enough evidence to burn his entire lie to the ground. Rachel nudged me gently. You okay? I nodded slowly. I will be. But deep inside, something darker formed, something quiet, steady, and sharp. I wasn't just going to clear my name. I was going to make sure Tyler never did this to anyone again. And I was going to show my dad exactly who he threw away. Mark finally hit print on a massive stack of papers. There, he said. Proof your stepbrother is a moron and a criminal. I stared at the stack like it was gold. Rachel grabbed her coat. What now? She asked. I tightened my grip on the evidence.
Now,
I said, feeling a cold determination settle in. Now we go home. The closer we drove toward my house, the heavier the air felt, like the entire neighborhood was holding its breath. Rachel kept glancing at me as if checking whether I was going to fall apart or explode, but all I felt now was a cold, controlled focus. I wasn't the scared 19-year-old who'd been kicked out 3 hours ago. I was someone armed with proof, pages of it, and the knowledge that my stepbrother's carefully crafted lie was about to collapse straight onto his smug face. When we turned into my street, I saw Dad's car still in the driveway, lights on inside the house. He was still up, probably pacing, probably furious, probably rehearsing what he'd say to the police tomorrow.
good.
Because tonight everything would flip. Rachel parked at the curb and killed the engine. You ready? She asked quietly. I stared at the house that used to feel like home and now felt like an execution chamber. Yeah, I said. Ready. We walked up the driveway together, the night air cold against my face. I didn't knock softly, I pounded on the door. The kind of knock that announces you're not here to apologize. Inside, I heard quick footsteps. The door yanked open, and Dad stood there with eyes full of disgust and worry and something like fear. Adam, what are you doing here? He snapped. I told you not to come back until I returned money I didn't take? I cut in, my voice steady but sharp. Dad's jaw tightened. We're not doing this. Leave before things get worse. Rachel stepped forward. Actually, things are about to get a lot clearer. Dad blinked at her, confused. Before he could ask, I pushed past him and walked into the living room. I didn't wait for permission. He lost the right to control that the second he threw me out. Tyler and my stepmom were sitting on the couch. She looked startled. He looked like a deer caught in headlights before quickly morphing into victim mode. Why are you here? he demanded, trying to sound brave, but sounding like a child cornered. I dropped the thick stack of printed evidence onto the coffee table. The smack echoed through the entire room. Because, I said, staring straight at him, you're done. Dad's face twisted. What is this? Proof, I said calmly. Proof that Tyler lied. Proof that he stole his own savings. Proof that he tried to frame me. Tyler stood up fast. Dad, don't listen to him. Sit, I said. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't threaten. I just said it. And what shocked me most was that he actually sat. Maybe he saw something in my face he hadn't expected. Maybe he knew he was cornered. Maybe both. I opened the packet, pulling out the first page Mark printed, the carrier records. Number 1, I said, sliding the page toward Dad. Both threatening anonymous numbers came from the same IP address. The IP address of this house. Dad frowned, scanning the paper. What? Number 2. I slid the next set of documents over. Tyler activated both burner phones using this house's Wi-Fi. Mark traced the IP. The metadata is right there. Dad looked up sharply. Tyler, is this true? Tyler scoffed weakly. Anyone can fake that. Number 3. I dropped the next page. The transfer that emptied your savings happened at 3:16 p.m. from a Starbucks 2 miles away. I was at work then. Time clocked. On camera. Dad's eyes snapped to Tyler. You said Adam was home. I thought he was. Tyler stuttered. He must have. Number 4. I pulled out the purchase record. This is the receipt for the prepaid card used to steal your money. Bought at 11:42 a.m. Paid for with your debit card, Tyler. His face went pale. His lips trembled. He opened his mouth, but nothing came out. The room went dead silent except for the humming of the air conditioner. Dad stared at Tyler with a look I had never seen in my entire life. Betrayal. Pure betrayal. Tyler, he said quietly, voice cracking. Did you really do this? Tyler shook his head too fast. Dad, no, he's setting me up. Rachel snorted.
Yeah.
Because 19-year-old hardware store employees are secretly criminal masterminds with IT forensic connections. Stepmom looked completely lost, glancing between Tyler and all the papers like she was watching the world crumble around her. Why would you do this? She whispered to him. Why? Tyler burst into tears, not fake sobs, but real panicked ones now that he realized everything was slipping. I didn't mean for it to go this far. I needed the money. And I thought if I blamed Adam, no one would. Dad always believes me. I didn't think he'd kick him out, My stepmom covered her mouth. Dad sank onto the couch like the weight of everything had just hit him all at once. I felt nothing for a long moment. Not satisfaction. Not relief. Just emptiness. Because even though I was right, even though I had proof, even though Tyler's lies had shattered under the truth, the damage was still done. My own father had believed the worst of me without hesitation. Tyler sobbed harder. Dad, I'm sorry. I didn't know what to do. I owed someone money, please. Dad didn't respond. He didn't even look at him. Instead, he looked at me. Really looked at me. For the first time since this nightmare started. Adam, he whispered, tears forming in his own eyes. I'm so sorry. I should have listened. I should have trusted you. But you didn't, I said, my voice steady but cold. You kicked me out. You threatened to call the police. You told everyone I was a thief. You believed him without asking me a single question.
Dad stood.
I know, and I will never forgive myself for that. But please let me fix this. Tyler cried harder. Dad, please don't call the cops. I didn't mean it. It was a mistake. Dad turned toward him with a look so sharp it made Tyler flinch. A mistake? Dad said. You almost got your brother arrested. I stepped forward. He's not my brother. The silence that followed was heavy.
Real.
Final. Dad swallowed hard and nodded like he couldn't argue with that.
He turned back to me.
Adam, I'll make this right. I'm not here for your apology, I said. I'm here to clear my name. And with that, I pulled out my phone and hit play on the voicemail Dad left earlier, the threat to call the police. His own voice echoed through the room. Stepmom's face crumpled. Dad's shoulders sagged. Tyler looked like he was praying the floor would open and swallow him whole. I stopped the audio. Tomorrow morning, I said quietly, you're going to tell every family member, every friend, every person Tyler lied to exactly what happened. You're going to clear my name completely. Dad nodded fiercely. I will. I swear. And after that, I continued. I'm moving out. For good. Dad's breath hitched. Adam, please, this is your home. It stopped being my home when you chose him over me. Rachel placed a hand on my shoulder, grounding me. Dad stepped closer, voice breaking. Can you at least stay tonight? Please. We'll talk tomorrow. I shook my head.
No.
I'm done sleeping in places where I'm only trusted when it's convenient. I picked up the stack of evidence. The police will get this unless Tyler pays back every cent he stole. Immediately. Tyler sobbed hysterically, nodding frantically. I'll pay it back. Please, just don't tell them. I'll pay it. I looked at Dad one last time.
Goodbye.
And I walked out of that house without looking back even once. I woke up the next morning with my heart pounding, like my body already knew the storm wasn't over. I barely slept because every time I closed my eyes, I heard my dad's voice shouting, saw his finger pointed at me, felt the sting of being thrown out like I was nothing. But today wasn't about grief anymore. Today was about proof. And revenge. Not the screaming, dramatic type, but the silent, cold kind that comes from facts, timestamps, and a digital trail nobody can outrun. I grabbed my phone, and the first thing I did was open the bank app one used for tutoring payments. A week before everything went down, my stepbrother Kevin had used my laptop to print something for school. At the time, I didn't think twice. He often borrowed stuff, and I never suspected anything because he always played the victim, the poor, struggling younger kid who needed help with everything. But when I opened my device manager, I saw something I had missed before. My laptop had a saved fingerprint login ID created the same day he borrowed it. Not mine, his. My stomach flipped. Kevin had used my laptop to log into Dad's bank account, meaning he had access long before the money disappeared. I dug deeper, opening the network logs, checking connected devices, anything that could show Kevin wasn't the innocent sobbing boy he pretended to be. Then it hit me. My dad kept his passwords in a locked notebook in his bedroom drawer. Kevin knew where the spare key was because he'd once accidentally found it while cleaning. And the night before the money vanished, Kevin had been home alone for 3 hours. I didn't have solid proof yet, but the pattern was forming like a bruise, ugly, swollen, and undeniable. I needed more. So I texted the only friend who hadn't blocked me, Tyler. He was the quiet one in our group, the one who stayed out of drama and didn't follow the crowd's opinions like the rest. I told him everything. He responded instantly. Bro, Kevin posted a screenshot yesterday. It was a fake bank alert. I thought it looked weird. My pulse spiked. Send it, I replied. He sent it and I stared at it for a full minute. The screenshot Kevin sent to everyone, claiming his savings were gone, wasn't even from the official banking app. It was from a template website used to create fake bank notifications. The watermark was cropped, but not perfectly. The top right corner still had half a pixel of text, just enough to confirm it was fake. My hand started shaking because this wasn't just suspicion anymore. This was evidence that he fabricated the whole thing. But I needed the kill shot, proof of the actual transaction. I couldn't access Dad's account, but I could access phone backups. Dad never logged out of iCloud on the old family iPad, and that thing synced messages automatically. I powered it on, prayed it still worked, and when it lit up, the world stopped. 3 days before I was kicked out, I found a text thread between Dad and Kevin. Don't touch my savings. I'm serious, Dad wrote. Kevin replied, I won't, Dad. I promise. Then, the day the money vanished, another message. Why is there a $900 transfer from my account? Dad sent.
Kevin, what?
I don't know. Classic manipulation. But scrolling further, I found the real bomb. 10 minutes after the money disappeared, Kevin messaged someone named Mason. Bro, I think I pulled it off. My dad thinks it was him. I felt my chest go hot.
Him. He meant me.
I was the scapegoat he planned from the start. And there was more. Kevin bragged in the messages about how Dad will finally see who the real golden child is, and once he kicks James out, everything will be mine. I froze. My half-brother framed me so he could eliminate competition. And Dad, the man who raised me, walked right into the trap without hesitating for even 1 second. Rage was the wrong word for what I felt. It was something deeper, darker, something made of betrayal, humiliation, and disbelief. I screenshotted everything. Every message. Every timestamp. Every slip-up Kevin made. Then I made a copy on a flash drive because I knew the next part wouldn't be easy. It was time to face the man who threw me into the street based on a lie. I showed up to my father's house around noon. He opened the door with the same angry expression like he still believed I was a criminal. "What are you doing here?" "I told you, Dad," I said, my voice steady even though my insides felt electric. "Before you say anything else, read this." I handed him the iPad with the messages open. He looked annoyed at first, then confused, then horrified. His face drained color. His jaw slackened. He scrolled, reading every smug message Kevin sent, every lie he told, every trap he laid for me. When he finally lifted his eyes, he didn't even look like my father anymore. He looked like a man who just realized he'd burned down his own house. Where did you find this?" he whispered. "The family iPad you forgot to wipe." He swallowed hard. There was a long silence, the kind that stretches thin and fragile right before something explodes. "James, But before he finished, Kevin came downstairs, half asleep, clueless about the bomb about to hit him. "Dad, is he seriously here again? Tell him to leave." Dad turned toward him with a look I'd never seen in my entire life. Disbelief. Fury.
Shame.
"You," Dad said quietly, "framed your brother?" Kevin froze like ice. His face went red, then pale, then red again. "Dad, he hacked my—" "Stop lying," Dad roared, slamming the iPad onto the table. Kevin flinched. I had never seen Dad yell at him like that. Ever. "You stole the money. You lied. You let me throw him out." The room was vibrating with tension. Kevin started stuttering excuses, fake tears forming just like always, but Dad wasn't buying it this time. "Get out," Dad said. "You are not staying in this house another minute." Kevin's eyes widened. Dad, please, get
Out."
Kevin ran upstairs, grabbing his stuff while crying loudly, but I didn't feel bad. Not even a little. Because I wasn't the villain in this story. I was the victim. But the worst part? Even after everything, Dad turned to me and said the words I wasn't prepared for. "James, please come home."
"I'm so sorry."
"I should have trusted you." I stared at him, searching his eyes for sincerity, but all I saw was a man who only regretted the consequences, not the choice he made. And the truth hit me like a punch. I didn't trust him anymore. Not after being thrown out without a single question. Not after being treated like trash while his real son got every benefit of the doubt. So I answered the only way my heart allowed. "Dad, I'm not coming back." His lips parted, but no words came out. The guilt was obvious, but it was too late. I walked out of the house without looking back, without giving him the comfort of reconciliation. Because sometimes blood isn't thicker than betrayal. And sometimes the father you grew up loving is nothing like the man standing in front of you. Now I left my father's house feeling like my body was vibrating with adrenaline, anger, and a weird kind of relief I couldn't fully explain. The sky looked different. The air felt different. I wasn't the same person who had been thrown out like garbage a few days earlier. I wasn't walking away broken. I was walking away free. But freedom doesn't erase damage, and the moment I stepped outside, my phone wouldn't stop buzzing. Not because people were apologizing. No, they weren't that noble. They were reacting to the explosion that had just gone off in my old home. Tyler texted, "Bro, what happened?" "Your dad and Kevin are all over the neighborhood group chat." Another message, "Dude, everyone knows Kevin lied." I checked the group myself, and sure enough, someone had posted that Kevin was seen running out of the house with a duffel bag while Dad screamed at him from the doorway. People commented things like, "I always knew something was off with that kid," and "James didn't seem like the type to steal." Funny how fast people flip when the truth becomes inconvenient to ignore. But the thing that hit me hardest was a message from someone I didn't expect, my friend Marcus. The same friend who had blocked me the second the accusation came out. He texted, "Bro, I'm sorry. We didn't know." I stared at the screen with a cold, hollow feeling because those 4 words, "we didn't know," felt like a slap. They didn't know me. They grew up with me. They saw who I was, what I did, how I lived. But the moment one life floated across a group chat, they tossed me aside without hesitation. That wasn't "we didn't know." That was "we didn't care enough to find out." I didn't respond. Let them sit with their guilt. Let them wonder. My silence was the apology they would never get. I walked to the bus stop with my backpack slung over my shoulder, thinking my day was finally done. But fate wasn't finished with me yet. Because as I sat there waiting, scrolling through messages and deciding who else I needed to block, a black SUV pulled up in front of me. The window rolled down and I froze. It was Mason. The same Mason who was in the messages with Kevin, the one he bragged to, the one he called right after framing me. I tensed instantly. Mason wasn't exactly dangerous, but he had that chaotic energy that always made people uneasy, like a guy who laughs too hard at the wrong jokes. He leaned over from the driver's seat and smirked.
Yo, James.
Heard you finally exposed the rat. My jaw tightened. What do you want, Mason? He shrugged. Relax, man. I'm here to help.
I almost laughed.
Help? From the dude who egged Kevin on? Why would you help me? Mason looked around like he didn't want anyone listening. Because Kevin dragged me into his mess. And what he told you wasn't the half of it. That sentence alone changed the temperature around us. I felt the air go cold.
Get in, he said.
Or don't. But if you want to know the truth about your brother, it's bigger than some stolen money. Against every instinct screaming don't trust him, I got in. Because if there was one thing this whole nightmare taught me, it was that not knowing is worse than knowing. What Mason told me next didn't just confirm Kevin framed me. It revealed something darker, something that explained why he did it, something connected to my father's money, something involving debt, threats, and a group of people Kevin shouldn't have been mixed up with. And the worst part? Kevin hadn't just planned to steal my father's money. He planned to disappear. And he planned to make sure I took the fall for everything. This wasn't jealousy. This wasn't favoritism. This was survival, Kevin's survival at my expense. And Mason? He only showed up because the people Kevin owed money to are now coming after him. I realized something terrifying in that moment. Exposing Kevin had only ended Mason drove like he was being chased, and honestly, I wasn't sure he wasn't. The way he kept checking the mirrors, the way his fingers tapped the steering wheel like each second was borrowed time, it all made my stomach twist. I finally snapped. Just tell me what's going on.
And he did, but not gently.
Kevin wasn't some clueless kid who stole money out of desperation. He was in real trouble, trouble he created all on his own. Mason told me that Kevin had been gambling online for months, lying about school expenses and secret projects just to funnel more and more money into accounts he thought Dad would never check. But when he lost everything, he owed the wrong people who didn't send polite reminders. They sent warnings. And when warnings didn't work, they sent consequences. Kevin panicked, tried borrowing from friends, then from Mason, then from random guys on shady apps. When all of that failed, he looked for someone else's wallet to steal from.
Dad's.
But to disappear with the money, he needed a story that made him look like a victim, someone who'd been robbed by the bad son of the house.
Me.
Mason said Kevin wasn't even supposed to run that day. He was supposed to meet the people he owed at an old warehouse outside town, hand off Dad's money, and start fresh somewhere else. But when I walked into the house with the iPad evidence, Kevin panicked and bolted. Only problem? The people who expected their money didn't care about excuses. They just wanted what they were owed. And now, Mason said, pulling into an empty lot by the old manufacturing district, they think Kevin's hiding. And since you're the name he used to cover his tracks, they think you might know where he is. My pulse went silent for a second, like my heart forgot how to beat. Why would they come after me? Mason looked at me with a seriousness I had never seen on him before. Because Kevin told them you were the one holding the money. It felt like the world stopped. Kevin hadn't just burned me with family. He had thrown me into danger with people who don't do second chances. Before I could even react, a second SUV pulled into the lot behind us, blocking the exit. 3 men stepped out, faces covered, hands in their jackets. Mason muttered, "Just stay calm." They approached the window, and the tallest one leaned down. "Where's Kevin?" he asked. Not angry, not loud, just cold. The kind of cold that means you're running out of time. Mason said, "He bailed, man. We're trying to find him too." The man cut him off. "Then why are you here?" His eyes shifted to me. "And why is he with you?" I realized in that second what Kevin had truly done. He didn't throw me under the bus. He tied me to the tracks. I swallowed hard. "Look," I said, forcing my voice not to crack. "Kevin stole from our dad. He lied. He framed me. But I have proof he was planning to meet you today. He ran. He left all of us hanging." The man stared at me like he was deciding whether to believe me or bury me in the ground. Then I remembered the messages. I pulled out the flash drive with the copied screenshots and held it out through the window. Everything is on here. The messages he sent. The plan. The time he was supposed to meet you. Even the money transfer. The man took it. Another guy grabbed Mason's phone and mine, checking for tracking or tricks. After what felt like years, the tall man nodded once, sharp and decisive. "If this is real," he said, "you're not our problem." He turned to his guys. "Let's go. Kevin will show himself sooner or later." They got back in their SUV and drove off like ghosts, silent, smooth, terrifying. I sat there, breathing hard, realizing I had just walked through a nightmare I never asked for. When their taillights disappeared, Mason whispered, "Bro, you might have just saved your own life." But I wasn't thinking about myself. I was thinking about the fact that Kevin was out there somewhere, alone, scared, running from people he couldn't outrun forever. I wasn't going to chase him. I wasn't going to warn him. I wasn't going to save him. I had been his shield my entire life, and he had repaid me by destroying mine. I stepped out of Mason's car and looked at the gray sky settling over the empty lot. For the first time in days, my mind felt clear. My father lost his trust the moment he chose Kevin's lies over my truth. My friends showed their true faces when they abandoned me without hesitation. Kevin? He wasn't my brother. He was a storm that I finally stepped out of. I wasn't going back to fix anything. I wasn't going to rebuild old connections. I was done watering dead plants. This was my clean slate. My restart. My life, no longer tied to someone else's chaos. And as I walked away from the lot, from Mason, from the entire mess, one thought settled heavy and final in my mind. Kevin wasn't my responsibility anymore. His consequences would find him. Mine already had, and I survived. Walking away from that empty lot felt like shedding a version of myself I didn't even realize I'd been carrying for years. The old me. The kid who bent over backward to earn his dad's approval, who swallowed disrespect from friends because he didn't want to lose them, who forgave Kevin's lies because family sticks together. That version of me died the moment I saw those messages on the iPad. Everything that happened afterward just buried him deeper. As I walked down the cracked sidewalk, I didn't know exactly where I was going, but for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel lost. I felt direction, even if the road ahead was unfamiliar. My phone buzzed again. More messages. More apologies. More people pretending they didn't help destroy me when it mattered most. One message stood out from my father. "James, please come home. I made a terrible mistake." I stared at the screen until the letters blurred. A few days ago, I would have given anything to hear that. I would have run home, desperate to fix everything.
But now?
His apology felt like a bandage on a bullet hole he created himself. An apology doesn't erase the moment he didn't even ask if I was innocent. It doesn't erase standing in the cold with a backpack hearing the click of the door locking behind me. It doesn't erase the humiliation, the loneliness, or the way he threw away years of trust for a single lie told by someone who had been manipulating him forever.
I didn't reply.
Not because I was angry, but because I finally understood something painful and clear. Some relationships don't break, they reveal. And what was revealed between my dad and me wasn't fixable. As for Kevin, rumors started spreading online within hours. Screenshots leaked, maybe from the group chat, maybe from someone who'd seen the confrontation, but people knew he ran. People knew he lied. People knew he stole. Some even claimed they saw him at a bus station 2 towns over, looking over his shoulder like every shadow was chasing him. Maybe it was. Maybe it still is. But his story wasn't my story anymore. His downfall wasn't my responsibility. For once, I wasn't the one cleaning up his mess. I found a cheap room to rent, just a mattress, a window, and a door that actually locked. It wasn't much, but it was mine. My own little world, quiet and unbroken. I got a new job within a week, tutoring again. The kids didn't care about rumors or drama. They just wanted someone patient who explained things in a way that made sense. They gave me purpose. Something I had been missing without realizing it. One evening, while grading assignments, I got a message from Tyler, the only real friend I had left. He said, "You didn't deserve any of that. If you ever want to hang out again, I'm here." And unlike the others, I believed him. Because he didn't say we didn't know. He said, "You didn't deserve it." That mattered. That one sentence felt like the first step toward building a life where people didn't treat me like I was disposable. I didn't forgive everyone. I didn't go home. I didn't reach out to Kevin. I didn't fix anything that wasn't mine to fix. Instead, I rebuilt myself, not the version they wanted, but the version I needed. A month later, I walked past my father's street on my way to a tutoring job. His house looked smaller somehow. The lights were off, the curtains closed, like the whole place was holding its breath. I didn't knock. I didn't stop. I didn't look back. Because the truth is, sometimes the family you're born into breaks you so deeply that the only way to survive is to walk away before they destroy what's left. And sometimes the greatest revenge isn't exposing them, defeating them, or proving them wrong. Sometimes the greatest revenge is simply healing without them. I survived being framed. I survived betrayal. I survived being abandoned, blamed, thrown out, hunted, and nearly destroyed. And I came out stronger, not because they helped me, but because they didn't. Kevin vanished into his consequences. My dad drowned in his guilt. My fake friends returned to their comfortable ignorance. And I stepped into a life where I didn't need any of them to breathe. I didn't win because they lost. I won because I walked away.